Run steep, get high. Run flat, stay low. Run the mountain, run the road. Run past the 8 stand to the commode. Oh, run steep, get high. Run flat, stay low. One stream, 2 guys. Mountain Outpost. Now here's your host.
Hey there, how was that? Hopefully you guys could all see that and hear that. Thanks to Rob Ricardo for putting that together, our full intro song and video and all. If you did see that, oh, there we go. We got people in the chat confirming. They say, stay low, sweet new entry video. That's a good intro. Perfect. Thank you guys. Welcome to Mountain Outpost Podcast number 15. I am your co-host, Jamil Coury, a.k.a. Jam Jam.
And I'm the other co-host, Schuyler Hall, a.k.a. Skizzle Fresh. How are you doing, boss?
Love it. I'm good. Yeah, feeling great today. It's a good day.
You can't just say things like that and not elaborate.
Well,
do tell.
I mean, someone, has a birthday tomorrow?
That is true.
So yeah. That's why we have the decorations in the background. We got.
Oh, my bad. I forgot to throw this bad boy on.
Perfect.
Got it.
Yeah, it looks like. Now we're talking. Perfect. Cool. Yeah, that's great.
Something like that.
This is the podcast, Mountain Outpost Pod birthday episode number 1. So welcome everyone. Lots of love for the intro. Lots of love for DJ Skizzle. And you also just had a feature come out on you as well from Atra. So there's all kinds of press happening.
It's been a really weird week for sure.
Yeah. The channel is firing, I would say, close to all cylinders. I guess the only thing we're missing now is a challenge video, but it's like pretty much rocking and rolling. We got Outhouse news dropped. We got Run Flat, Stay Low episode dropped. We've got this weekly podcast dropping. We've got our intro song. I mean,
yeah,
it's about what more can you ask for? I guess you could ask for a challenge video, but pretty dang close.
Yeah. Although I will say people keep sliding into DMs during my weekly submit Q&A and topics. And they're like, let's get an Easter challenge. We did one. It hurt. I'll refer people back to that video because that was far too steep for my liking, and that's when I realized that my body just doesn't process sugar like it did in my mid-20s. So yes, I'll refer folks to that. That Easter challenge does exist. Doesn't mean we won't do anything new. Somebody had a matzo ball challenge, which was interesting.
So are you straight up asking for challenge ideas or just
no?
This is just open forum.
This is what people send. They're just like, well, I'm gonna take any opportunity to give you a challenge idea that you guys should do. And somebody submitted Passover matzah in lieu, or I guess in addition to the Easter challenge. So I was like, that could be novel. Make sure we don't do any weird cultural appropriation, but. Yeah, those are the sorts of insights that people can assist with. But we'll get the challenges back soon. I think there's still some in the can that we haven't launched yet. So
I mean, there's some stuff in the can. It's not ready for prime time. We've got half filmed. We've got some where I filmed half, you've filmed half. We've got mini speed golf that I'm just not quite happy where the edit's at.
The 20-minute Steadicam didn't do it for you.
I mean, just like the storyline of it, I think needs to be fleshed out a little bit more. And that was when I had all my camera equipment stolen.
That was
we were filming with whatever 2 cameras I had left out of what was taken. So
it was back when we first had to wear N95 masks because of wildfire smoke and not because of a pandemic. So that's how long that one's been in the hopper.
Yeah.
But hey, we were hip to the game before it was cool.
Absolutely. Well, if you're new to this podcast or this YouTube video live, this is a weekly show and it's just a couple friends catching up about what's going on in our lives in the running world in particular. And we appreciate you guys tuning in live. You can tune in live to the show or catch it on Steep Life Media on all your favorite podcasting platforms. So you can catch it on a run, catch it on a commute, however you want to do it. And I am going to make sure I have all of your questions coming up on my screen so that we can answer them throughout the show. Drop them in there. If we don't get to them during the show, we'll get to them at the end.
Yep, pretty much.
That's it.
Got nothing to add there. So we talked about sort of the fact that the channel's sort of coming to its full vibrancy once again. But we do things that aren't this channel. So like what else is going on? A couple weeks ago, you had come back from Barkley Boot Camp and you had the ankle or Achilles that you were, a little bit cautious about. Where are you at running wise and just like life other than Mountain Outpost wise?
It ain't good. I'll just say that much. I did do that crazy week, 40,000 foot week. And then, had a bit of a down week due to a sore Achilles. That mostly is cleared up. I did run the Mesquite Canyon 50K this past weekend. So just kind of jogged it out. But I've been in stress mode, just for many reasons, especially with work. So I feel like I just can't find enough hours in the day. I can't find even a half hour to run or do anything. So I don't know. It's a challenging time for, I think, a multitude of reasons. So yeah.
That's real.
That's what I got.
That's straight what it is. Yeah.
This is what happens a lot. But there's a lot of moving things, a lot of moving pieces right now. And it just takes my time and attention. So that's what's up.
That's what happens when you're a boss. It's nature of the beast. No, I'm in a similar situation. Obviously doing birthday month of action, trying to do 330 kilometers running, 330 kilometers biking, 33,000 feet of gain. Got a little bit off pace over the weekend. So things were happening. We just started track practice again for the first time yesterday. So trying to work that back into the regular schedule, plus the day job, plus the travel and commute that goes into having to go all the way down to the high school. And then just like reworking what practices look like when you have to maintain social distance and you have multiple event groups and you have things like starting blocks that are sort of common touch points. Like what do we have to do to maneuver all those things? So, and our first meet is this weekend. So they gave us no help there.
No ramp up really.
Nope. It's just like, hey, you haven't seen your kids in 360 days. Almost, I think that's exactly what it was, like 360 or 361. March 11th was the last day we had practice last year. We were supposed to have a meet on the 12th and it got canceled just before the kids were supposed to be dismissed to get on the bus. So, and then the world shut down. So yeah, literally March 8th, first day back. And it's like, cool, you got 5 days and we have a cross country meet. So we'll have some kids run that. And then we have 5 days after that or 6 days after that, we have a track meet. And so we're bouncing between the two sports while also trying to get these kids who've been more or less cooped up in their homes for the last year to a place of just like functional movement, let alone trying to run fast or jump far or throw far. So it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time.
So, I mean, it sounds like some things are starting to ease up over there, restrictions.
Yeah. So this is the way that California worked. There's like 4 colors that any county can be in, purple being the most restrictive. And if you listened to the Pillars podcast that Jamil was on last Wednesday, I think, with the race directors from Broken Arrow and from Lake Sonoma, they did a pretty good job of explaining the whole system. But basically, very restrictive when it's purple to basically non-existent restrictions when you're in, I think, whatever's after yellow. I don't even know because
green.
Maybe I honestly do not know. I've
why
never
is
even
purple
had.
Why is purple the worst color? I guess
it's like harder than red.
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
so that's kind of where it ended up. But yeah, because of just the positivity rate's been crashing. The rates per 100K have been crashing in California, more or less across the board, which is obviously a great position to be in when you've been dealing with this for so long. So as those become less restrictive by county, that gives us more allowances for youth sports and a whole host of other things, restaurant capacities, store capacities, things like that. So things have been moving very quickly here in the state, and obviously school districts are always concerned about litigation and just getting sued for weird things. And so our district just took a little bit longer to get everything going. So compared to our competition, we're definitely last to get rolling in terms of cross country and track. But, I'm just happy to be back and to see these kids for the first time in ages. Like literally the last time I saw most of them, they were throwing jerseys over a fence into a box that I had set up in a parking lot, because that was the only way that we could sort of retrieve their materials once the season was just abruptly shut down. So it's good to be able to engage with them in person, even if at a distance, and just get back to the fundamentals, get back to the foundations, and try to set them up for success either for the next 6 or 7 weeks, because our season is also very compact, and then obviously moving on either into future academic years or for the seniors that are graduating, giving them one last hurrah in the school jersey before they go off to do whatever it is they do next in their running career.
Yeah. Well, I remember for me, Mesquite Canyon last year was the last event we put on. So shortly thereafter, things were shut down. I think there were only a couple other events nationwide in terms of running that happened for a couple months at least. We had already started to tighten our own restrictions. That's the first race that we started enacting some things, runners couldn't just dip their hand in the candy bowl or fill up your own water bottles. You had to ask for help. You had to hold your bottle. The volunteers couldn't touch your bottle. And then it was interesting because I ran the 50 mile last year and the 50K this year. And it was just interesting running the race a year later with everything we've been through. And it's not I don't know. It just felt kind of normal this year running it. And there were obviously different restrictions at the aid stations. You have to mask up, but now it just feels like normal. You'd pin on a bib, you fill up your water bottles, you put your race vest on, you put your mask on, you walk up to the start line, you get your temperature checked. It's not a big deal now. You're in a little wave start, 15 people, you go off and run. It's not crowded. It's kind of nice. So yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
It's weird, thinking through, this time last year, I was sitting in a bar watching the season finale of The Bachelor. It's those sorts of things. Now that we are sort of hitting those anniversaries, we're going to see a bunch of those news stories, I'm sure. But yeah, we've grown a lot. We've learned a lot about ourselves and each other. And it's just a function of, I think that is sort of forced self-actualization for folks, and then community actualization for the running community specifically. What does it mean to be the inclusive environment that we always claim to be, especially as ultra runners? And so, yeah, we've had a sort of forced reckoning to think through a lot of things, and now we're going to get back to seeing people in person more often, and we'll see if those lessons learned carry over, or if they were flashes in the pan. I think that's going to be very different for certain communities, certain people. So it'll be an interesting year to come as we continue to work through that.
Yeah, maybe we should talk a little bit more about pandemic stuff. I was listening to a podcast with some guys, and they were saying how basically everyone, I think, in the U.S. who wants a vaccine will be able to get one by, is it the end of May? They're saying
every adult American should be able to, based on the supply chain and the contract with especially J&J and Merck and the Defense Production Act, to be able to get a vaccine should they want one by the end of May.
Which means as long as people do, I guess, this pandemic should be winding down. I'm not going out there and saying that, but that's what they were saying. They're it's going to be over by June is what. Okay, I don't know if that's entirely certain, but okay, that's a little aggressive.
That's a little optimistic, let's say. Obviously with the different variant strains, and more will naturally come because that's how viruses work. There's always going to be ongoing surveillance. There's going to be a need for testing, just to make sure that, we are staying on top of proper vaccine protocols. If a variant comes that we need to adjust the vaccines for, re-up the boosters, either for the mRNA vaccines or for J&J or anything that might come down the line, then we look to the labs, we look to our public health officials to stay on top of that, recognize these things are coming, and make the necessary adjustments. So there's this scientific component that, whether we get to full vaccination or we get to herd immunity or things like that, that's just going to take a while. Obviously, there's some technological issues in terms of people trying to secure appointments, and that might look very different state by state, county by county. And so there's going to be operational hiccups that we need to keep working through. So most people should have access to the vaccine by the end of May, whether or not the systems catch up. That's what we're going to continue to work through on the public sector side, and in conjunction with private sector partners who help us with that. But then there's the whole psychosocial component. We've mostly been interacting virtually for quite some time. There's folks who just have, and that spans very widely, from folks who just kind of said, YOLO, whatever, I don't believe that this is a thing, to people who really have not left their house whatsoever over the last year. And those have to sort of merge back together somehow. And so people are just going to have different hesitancies, different willingness to step out into normal environments. And, there's going to be new anxieties or social either awkwardness or just reticence that we're going to need to keep working through. And we got to recognize that, hey, we all had different experiences over the past year, both from the pandemic, but then everything else that can happen in somebody's life over the course of 365 days or 15 months or whatever it ends up being. So we have to be cognizant of that and understand where folks are coming from, that their experience may have been and most likely was different than ours, and how do we create that space to allow them to feel comfortable and try to get to a point that those who might already feel very comfortable being out and about are already at. You're trying to get folks to that level, but you don't want to force it upon them. You got to allow them to get there at their own speed. Makes
a lot of sense, for sure.
And there's a whole host of other things from just mental health and trying to make sure that folks have access to those resources. Obviously, we continue to be mindful of all the health challenges we had before the pandemic. Opioid epidemic was its own bucket of worms, and so now we have to we never really lost our focus on that from the public health side, but how do we now recognize that this is just another element that we need to commingle in, and all of these elements,
new public health issues that have either been exacerbated or have popped up since all this started too.
Absolutely. Yep.
Couple comments in the chat relating to this line of discussion. Tyler Flaherty, he says he never experienced the old way to race. I guess that's true. Some people are new to the sport as of a year ago. So he says Bandera 50K was my first ultra. Do y'all think it'll get back to the crowds I used to see in older races? That's a great question. I think yes and no. I think we'll see larger events, but I was even talking to my team. I think the wave starts are here to stay in some regards, just because to me, I think it's nicer to have a smaller group that you start with. The trails are less crowded. It makes the flow easier. I think it's really not that big of a deal. I think what we'll start to see is the wave sizes over time will just get larger and larger. But I don't know, will Javelina go back to a 600 person single start? I don't know. I think there might be. I think this might be just a new way forward, at least for a while. I think there's some advantages to it, honestly.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, from a spectator standpoint, at some point, yes, we will get to a situation where folks can be around the track at Placer High as Western States is finishing. Those will come back, but that's going to, again, also take time. And a lot of that's dependent on both the permitting agencies, obviously, but then spectator willingness and just like the community writ large, because those are some magical moments to take in personally, and you get to see that and you get inspired, and everybody talks about them for ages, like the person finishing with like 6 seconds left. But also, where does the new technology and live streaming, like how does that all factor in? Does that add to those moments? And, you know, how do races start to interact with bringing that in to sort of create a bridge between the old and the new? And maybe we just end up living on the bridge forever. It's real troll life. I don't know. I lost that analogy, but you get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the live stream, I think we're going to see more of that most definitely, especially in this transition period until we can have full spectators again. But yeah, that's another thing that shouldn't go away. We should just have that. Frank LaHoulier, any thought to requiring vaccinations for races? I mean, one race that is requiring it, at least for crew, is Barkley this year. I'm strongly considering it for across the years this year. If we're to hold that, you know, it's a 6-day event, or, you know, sometimes 10-day event around a 1 mile loop. And I would have a lot more confidence in knowing that, I guess, people with like a quote unquote COVID passport were the only ones in attendance, meaning you have the vaccine or you have had COVID and recovered. Like, I think it goes a long way in reducing a lot of the risk as a collective in terms of gathering a large group, but it's also for us pretty far away. So we have time to see what's going on in the world by then. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I would be open to it in certain situations, certain events, you know, especially once everyone who wants to get it has access to it. If there's enough supply, especially here in the US, I mean, I don't know, that's a whole nother conversation, but it's certainly, I think it can solve some problems for sure.
Yeah. Private companies can do whatever they want. So that's my stance on that. Okay. But I will also say there's probably, and we have international viewers and listeners who might be able to chime in. There's probably some slightly different takes abroad, you know, your UTMBs, your, you know, Diamond to Food, like those races that are either in that go through very small villages and communities, or countries that just were like, hey, America really botched that for a while. Like, there's many different reasons that they might have a sort of feeling about vaccinations for their participants and crews, but everyone has their own calculus, and we just have to sort of wait for that to resolve itself and act accordingly.
Nancy Hobbs, are all 3 vaccines equally good or effective, or is one better than another? I took your advice, got vaccinated as soon as I could, and got dose number 1 of Moderna on Saturday. Thoughts?
Nice. Yes, all super effective. So there's a lot of issue for those who are just like new to the situation. Public health official over here, so I'm not just like a Facebook dude who read too much.
Race director, pandemic. Oh, way below you. That's why I bow down to you for all of this.
No. It's all G. I just want to sort of like level set for folks who are just like, who's this random guy? So in terms of, you know, the point efficacy, that number you would hear from, you know, the CDC or ACIP, or if you're here in America, you know, about like 94% efficacy. That's for any illness whatsoever. So once you have the vaccine and you're fully vaccinated, so you've gone through the 2-dose sequence for Pfizer, Moderna, or you are beyond the sort of 14 days or 28 days for J&J, you know, that efficacy number is just for like getting any sort of symptomatic illness whatsoever. And so, you know, with Moderna and Pfizer, 94% efficacy. So there's a 6% chance that you have any sort of symptomatic COVID illness, point blank. And that's just like the dry cough, like it includes all of those things. For all 3 vaccines, even though the point efficacies might have been slightly different, the risk of hospitalization, so a severe enough illness to be hospitalized, or death, is almost 0. And that's really what you're aiming for. So, you know, obviously, again, viruses always mutate and whatnot. So we anticipate that this will always sort of be an ongoing issue that we need to monitor, much like we do flu surveillance. We will probably have to do COVID surveillance just to make sure that something hasn't gotten completely around the vaccination or natural immunity process. But, in terms of, if you get J&J, for instance, in 28 days after that dose, you are, 85%, I might be misquoting that, but let's just say 85% likely to not end up hospitalized or to die from it. I mean, those are already fantastic odds. That reduces them lower than the flu for many people. So that's great. And then also the risk of then spreading to others is also based on studies that are being done in the real world and not just clinical environments, are showing that risk of you as a vaccinated individual, even if you were exposed to COVID, being able to spread it to others is also drastically reduced, which is great because the lower you bring down that are effective or that are not, the true flattening of the curve happens. So that's the dream. And at the end of the day, if you just if you were somehow to still get COVID and it just felt like a normal flu and it sucked for 72 hours and you went on with your life, most people would take that as a huge win, right? Because you didn't die, and that was your big concern for the past year. So get the vaccine when you can.
Darling Runner PT says, so all the racers will only be 65 and older. I think talking about requiring a vaccination. Comment on that.
I mean, no. So
not correct.
I mean, your particular jurisdiction may be a little bit slower in rolling things out at the moment. I can say here in my local county, we are 60 and over, and food and agriculture workers, so people who are working in restaurants and the agriculture industry, feed, all of that, healthcare workers, emergency services, teachers and childcare, so daycare folks as well. And those folks span all sorts of ages. Like that's where we're at now without J&J even really having rolled out. There's only one week of allocation for that thus far. And so as the supply chain continues to loosen up, we're getting more of both, actually all three vaccines over the next couple of months. We should really be able to speed through that. Now, there are a whole host of other issues that might be happening in localities in terms of difficulty finding appointments, the website's not being great. And so we'll continue to work through those issues. But yeah, when we say that every adult American, we are pretty much aiming for everyone 18 and over. It's not just gonna be a 65 plus issue.
Cool. Do we want to go much more into this? I mean, I feel like we could do a whole show on this.
Probably could, but no, because everybody's going to hear that for the rest of the week. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, I think the message is it's coming for a lot of people. We just got to be a little bit more patient. So, yeah, eventually it will open up for more. But, yeah, even here in Arizona, it's not just in some counties, it is still 65 and over, but other counties, they've already kind of gone through that and they're down to like in the 50s now. So
Gila County was just like 18 and over, show up. It was
are
crazy.
they really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go Gila County.
I haven't fact checked. I got an email about it that was like, here's the news story. I was like, what? And then, I tend to do a lot of work under normal circumstances with tribal communities, and they've been, for many of them hammering through their population. Obviously, there's a huge cultural element to working to protect their elders, as storytellers and keepers of the culture. But many of the ones that I've had direct conversations with are like, yeah, we're in 1C. Like we are like getting into line staff of all ages. So the end is near. We're in the fourth quarter. We're in the eighth inning. Whatever. You were at Roby Point, the Western States course, like whatever way you want to frame this analogy, but we got to stay diligent, to make sure that we're protecting people who are not vaccinated, if you happen to be vaccinated, and then also just like exhibiting good behaviors, because there are a lot of things that folks apparently learned this year in terms of like how to properly wash your hands, but like we should keep doing, because if it reduces
hand sanitizer,
yes, if it reduces the flu in other years. And just like, hey, if you're sick and you have the ability to stay home, then like stay home. And then, like, if you need to wear a mask, and
Pop a mask on if you're coughing. Wow.
Those sorts of things like will actually still benefit the community and the overall health and public health because that's just how respiratory viruses spread. So there are lessons to maintain even once we get past the pandemic.
Yeah. So I have a little bit of an experience. I've been searching for a volunteer slot. They're looking for volunteers at a lot of these sites. That's how they run some of them. So I found one like 11 p.m. last night. One opened up in Cottonwood, which is like an hour and a half drive. So I showed up at 6:30 this morning and helped out throughout the day, which was actually a really awesome experience. I got to sit in between, a nurse and an EMT who were giving out the shots. And I was on the computer, basically greeting everyone coming in, typing in the information into the database that as soon as like I click a button and they get the vaccine, it goes into like the Arizona system and it like tallies it up. And then I basically like put the lot number on their vaccination card. They were giving out the Moderna one at the place I was at. But we were working out of this Verde Valley church and we vaccinated 800 people today. And, it was mostly, I think 65 and up for the most part. And like, it was just it felt very rewarding. Like it was some people were coming in for their first one and they were just so appreciative. Everyone was like so gracious and nice. And honestly, the people in charge, I think this one was run by FEMA. They actually did a great job. Like it was so smooth. Everyone who was working there was like really efficient and like moving people through really quickly. And it seemed like a seamless process for the most part. So I was impressed by the process and it was just, like I said, again, super rewarding to be part of it. And just like, you could just feel like the relief from all these people coming in, just especially when they got their second one too. They're like a little bit nervous of getting it and like the possible kind of like, there's some side effects, like people feel sick for a couple of days sometimes, but just overwhelming, just gratefulness for the whole thing. So it was awesome to see it firsthand.
That's what's up. Yeah, no, I've heard very similar things from, we've had folks from the National Guard or from the Coast Guard Service who've been working some of the larger CBC sites here in California. And, I just had poolside conversations with them, just like, how are things going, whatnot. And we've heard many times from them, they're still people. They've also lived through this time. And they're like, this is one of the most rewarding deployments I've had, so normally you end up somewhere and it's like after a wildfire, after a major natural disaster, or you're in a war zone. And here people are crying for positive reasons because, this is a chance for them to get back to normalcy and to re-enter, to be able to hug their grandchildren for the first time in over a year. So that's a common sentiment for sure.
Yeah, it was amazing. And like, definitely if you can grab a volunteer slot, I would recommend it for sure.
Sick.
So cool. Well, I don't know that we should touch any more on that. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we got months to continue to talk about these things.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't have months left in these cans of whatever it is we're drinking. And I need to know what you're drinking, sir.
Oh, it's the same. It's the hard cider from John Heinsohn, our intro song that now it's stuck in everyone's head. I know, because we also put out that standalone YouTube video. But yeah, this is from the Jameson Hard Cider Company. It's the dry hopped hard cider. I got one left over here. So
okay.
I'm either going to kill that later tonight or next week. So we'll see.
Cool. I support this. I have switched it up. I have from Crowns and Hops. So a few weeks ago, I had their HBCU beer. I got a different one from them. This is the Urban Queen Imperial Stout with Red Bay coffee. So basically an Imperial coffee stout. I believe it's like 10%. So this could be very interesting for me. But yeah, I'm excited to have this and try to undo. I also got my second dose yesterday, so I might hit the fatigue factor. Yesterday was a very busy day.
Yeah, you're like, did you get the Moderna?
Pfizer.
Pfizer.
Yeah.
Sorry, is it like 2 weeks after that, and it's kind of like that you have the kind of full immunity, or
Yeah. So
pretty
for Pfizer and Moderna, it's basically 14 days. It's like 10 days for Pfizer, 14 days for Moderna, but just assume 2 weeks. At that point, fully vaccinated. But those first 48 hours hit people real different. Some people have the muscle aches, and some people have the fever and flu-like symptoms, and some people get super fatigued. And I don't know if it's because I had a bunch of stuff happen yesterday, because I also went to the dentist. It was a busy day. And then, just now trying to get to the birthday, or if I'm just old. I don't know. It could be any number of things, but hopefully this coffee in the stout will help keep me through for the rest of this pod. So cheers,
Nice.
sir, per usual.
Cheers. Couple more things I want to get to on this line of conversation that I missed. Talking about wave starts. So, and like what's going to happen with wave starts going forward. That is kind of the way to go right now. So Dylan Hobson, one thing I love about ultra running is it gives weekend warriors like me to stand on the same start line as the giants of the sport. Where else can you do that? Waves take that away a bit. Totally. I definitely get that for sure. And I'm not saying that waves are going to be for sure the thing forever. And you'll still be out there on course with everyone. But I think especially the really bigger races, I would think, like Black Canyon for sure. It just gets so crowded on that single track. I think we'll probably spread it, but who knows? Like I'm just in a year or two, who knows where we're going to be out with things. And then another comment on that, John Clark, regarding wave starts, Never Summer in Colorado and Dead Horse in Moab, both did them in 2020. Way better experience. I hope most races go that route in the future. And that would probably be along the lines of what I was feeling too at Mesquite. It's like, and also like it's not exactly a flexible start time, but for me, for this weekend, I was in like the 6:40 start, and I showed up not super early for my wave, and I wanted to get a drone shot of the sunrise. So I started, I think like 4 waves late, which, we kind of allow you to dip back into the waves at our races. You can't go jump up to wave 1 out of order, but I probably shouldn't even be saying that I did that, because it's not something we want people to be doing. But it gives some more flexibility too, which is cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is also course dependent. Like if you're something where it's like, hey, we're going to be on double track for the first 7 miles and it's uphill and people are going to sort themselves out, I think that's going to look different for how big those waves can be, or if you need waves at all, versus something that's like a whole shot where you're like, all right, we got 400 meters and we're on single track.
Well, and most ultras, I think, not a lot have more than like 150 people per distance, like there's, once you start getting above 150 people in like a 50 miler or even a 50K, it's less amount of those. So I would think at some point pretty soon, or maybe in the next year, by 2022, we'll probably see, 200 people on a start line again. The elites are there. Everyone is there, all starting off. I'm talking about the giant races, races with 500 to 1,000 runners, I think, split it up into waves of 100 or something. So anyways, let's move on to something else besides this. But I think this was a really good conversation, timely, and appreciate everyone in the chat kind of chiming in on that one.
Yeah.
As we all move through this together.
That's the thing. We're all, as a community, individually and collectively, moving through it together. So cool. Good times. I think now that we started off talking about how the channel is back to full fruition. So normally this is the point of the show where I jump into Run Flat News, but because Mountain Outhouse is back, I'm going to give you the floor first, sir. What do you want to talk about?
Well, it's back, and I am like blown away by the response. I wasn't quite sure how the community would receive it when it came back, because it's been gone for so many months. I'm like, is it going to flop? Is it going to, not that we chase the views, but it's, you like to track your metrics sometimes. And, I'm proud of what we've built here. It started, from not a lot. And, the episode isn't even, not even a week old, and we've got like over 11,000 views. which is like one of our higher viewed episodes ever. So it might just be A, the first one back, B, Jim Walmsley's on the thumbnail, so you get some boost off of that. But I think Goggins is probably going to be on the thumbnail of the next one, so that'll probably do well. But yeah, just appreciate it. It was a packed show. I thought it was a great show. It was so good to receive it back from our editor, Nathan, and to see the news show again. I was like, this just feels right. This is good. I'm glad it's back. This week's show is half scripted. It would have been done, except I had to go to sleep so I could get up this morning and make it to my volunteering shift. But yeah, it's going to be back every week. So I'm pumped for that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And if you did not know that the show came back, or you're like, hey, I was late to the game and missed it when it dropped on Friday, this is where I remind you, if you hit that subscribe button on here on YouTube and then the bell next to it, you get a push notification every time something on the channel pops up. So most of the time it's Outhouse News or this podcast, or maybe you even get a Run Flat vlog that you don't need to watch, but it's there too. So
watch it.
It's fine. It's cool. I don't care about the metrics enough, which I shouldn't say, but it's like, hey, like I'm taking you guys behind the journey of the not world-class athlete, unlike that guy in that screen over there. So that's all but yeah, okay. So you talked about Walmsley and getting in the States. What you talked about some FKT
well,
news.
Did we already talked about last week's show in this pod, didn't we? So we need to talk about this week's show.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that we didn't cover on the pod last week. Off the top of my head, I can't think about it. Yeah, you want to give a little sneak preview of this week's show then?
Yeah, I'll pull up what I got so far. So yeah, couple things that we see. Well, first off, I mean, we're gonna go deeper into your birthday challenge month. Birthday month of action, aka BMOA. Is that what you call it?
Sure.
Bamoa
constrictor. Yeah.
So we're gonna get into that. I already saw you've been hitting it hard. Like last week was a big week for you, so you're getting after it. That's good to see.
So just wait until by the time you film this, things will have changed drastically if all goes according to plan.
I mean, maybe a couple stories I'll share real quick as sneak previews. There's more casualties to COVID in terms of races, and it's another important race from Andorra that rest in peace. The ELS 2900. This is like a peak bagging hut to hut type of a race, like super extreme ridgeline running. Anyways, it's gone. So they're closing its doors, and I don't know the details of this one. And if anyone knows anything else, it sounded like it has a lot to do with the local government or the local ski areas, like gaining too much control of the mountains there, where they're like restricting and permitting and all this stuff. I don't know if it's all COVID related or if it's something else, but basically they sound frustrated. They sound upset about the situation, and the race is no more. So that's in basically the last year we've lost Andorra Ultra Trail and ELS 2900. Sucks. The Jam on Tam 200 miler, Michael Lee. Do you know him?
Lee Li, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I saying that properly?
No, you're right. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't confusing with somebody else. Yes, I'm familiar.
So he, from what I know, and I guess I don't know enough about him. I'm sorry, Michael. In 2019, he did 24 hours of running laps on Mount Tam. And this is the same Mount Tam we're talking about last week when we had to talk about the FKT that Bailey ran. And so he ran 8 laps in 24 hours. It was like 100 kilometers with over 20,000 feet of gain. And then this year he wanted to just go straight to 200 miles, however long it took. I think it took him, he just was finishing it up yesterday. So I think it was like 4.5 or close to 5 days, but 21 laps, 55,000 feet of climbing or something, as far as I could tell. The final stats, I may not have had those correct, but it's impressive.
Yeah. Tam is no joke. And it's not like it's not like the rest of the headlands where you see the picturesque views and it looks like, oh, these are trails or dirt roads that fire service can drive on, that's not TAM. So
I think they do a little bit of a loop at the top for as part of this one. They like run up, loop, and then kind of hit it back down part of the way back, and it's like a lollipop type of a thing. So anyways, those are a couple big ones. I don't want to give away too much of the show. Kat Bradley announced a new sponsor, so we'll reveal that on this week's show. And she was at Mesquite Canyon this weekend, which was pretty cool. And we've got an update on my Strava local legend status. We've got A Jizzle Whizzle is back. We've had some viewer submissions that we called for. I think a couple different ones. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. It's packed again. Like I have like so many stories again for a second week in a row. It's insane. And I already, oh, are you there? I think Schuyler's popping in and out a little bit, or maybe I'm popping in and out a little bit. But yeah, we also had, let's see, besides that, what was I just saying? Anyways, you still with us? Okay. Yeah, maybe I was gone, you're gone, whatever. Anyways, yeah, it's gonna be a packed show again. And I was just saying how there's just so much going on right now. It's a good time to bring the news back. And I've already, even though I'm scripting this week's show, I think I already have 2 stories for like next week's show that popped up that, I can't even fit in this week's show because it's so packed. It's a good problem to have. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Do you have any commentary on that one? Hey, I didn't even mention that in the show, but you'll have to just go find that on your own. But yeah, it was good because those guys, it was a good mix. I'm a full time. My business is completely events pretty much. And then we had Skip, who runs a running store, and then Brendan, who has like Alpenglow Sports. So it's like all sorts of outdoor retail. And I think he was saying how his business has been booming because everyone's going up to Tahoe area, so he can barely keep up. And maybe that's why he even feels it was interesting because he already canceled. His race isn't normally until June, which and it's different motivations. Like he doesn't feel the pressure, like he has to put it on no matter what, because maybe the rest of his business is fine and he really wants to wait until he can do he was talking about the film festival and the clinics and all the spectators and all this stuff. And like, to him, it wasn't worth all the effort without having all that stuff. Like, this is me like almost a week removed from that conversation. I now get that a lot more because he doesn't have to rush it. He can take his time with it. Whereas me, like, I have to be scrappy, and I'm going to wait until the last minute to try and gain that last minute approval, because like we have a bunch of mouths to feed over here, and like we need every race we can get just to support the livelihood of our staff. And we have a large and growing staff. So every event counts for us. And, if we have to scale it back, we scale it back. Like almost whatever we have to do to balance it, we're going to make it happen. So that's my like reflection 6 days later. And thanks to Debo for putting that together. He's a great moderator. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good one. Hold on. They're saying they can't see you. Hold on. Oh crap. You came back, but I think I didn't grab you again. That doesn't make sense? All right. Sorry, everyone. I don't know how long he was gone. That's embarrassing. We need to get back to get the because I think. Okay. Shoot. All right.
We're just now in another production meeting.
Okay. I don't know how long we didn't have Schuyler. For like 4 minutes, they said, shoot.
I mean, if it's seeing me versus.
Is he back, everyone? Okay, he's back. So did you guys hear about the talk about the race director chat and stuff? Anyways, you're back. So we're gonna start over. We're now into the run flat news, right? The rundown of the run flat news.
Run flat news, yes. That's cool.
Start for the top.
Well, I really hadn't gotten that far, so we're good. So we had another free track meet this past weekend. The Sound Running Invitational was down in the greater LA area at an undisclosed location that was at a high school that you could read the name on the surface. But we had a bunch of folks out there chasing the 800, 1500, and 5K standards, both for the Olympics and for the Olympic trials, much like we saw at the Texas qualifier. This one was a bit more successful in terms of the number of folks who hit those marks, partially because of weather, partially because Bowerman Track Club showed up and turned the whole thing into a time trial for most of the races. So in the 800, you had Nia Adkins, the Brooks Beast, I believe. She ran 2:03.17. In the men's race, you had Josh Hoey take it out, and his brother was the pacer. So really easy to get in a groove when you're looking at the shoulders of the person that you grew up running behind. So he ran 1:47.72. A special shout out to the athlete special, making his professional debut in 1:49.76. So if you just follow all running YouTubers, and I think he put out a race recap video like yesterday or today, it's from that meet. So shout out to him on the grind post-COVID. In the 1500, Sinclair Johnson of Bowerman Track Club outkicked Elise Cranny, also of Bowerman Track Club. She ran 4:05, 4:05 high for the win. So no particular standard, sure he has it, so it's all good. In the men's side, Josh Kerr, the Brooks Beast, just made this look like a high school meet. Like, it was the most absurd thing. I would encourage you to go check the video. He just like runs away from the field and like wins by over 3 seconds, which doesn't happen in professional miles. So he wins in 3:35 and change. Then you had Amos Baltzesmeyer, I think is how you say his last name, competes for Germany, who ran 3:38. Johnny Gregoric came in just behind him as the first American. And then you had Centrowitz came through in 3:40, which started this whole conversation of is Matt Centrowitz washed, and is he going to make the Olympic team? He's fine. He's opened in 3:40 like 2 of the past 5 years or something like that. So he'll still be there for the Olympic trials, but that happened in the 1500. In the 5Ks, bananas. So on the women's side, you had 5 women hit the Olympic standard. You had another 3 hit the trial standard. In addition to that, you had 3 women led by Emily Sisson go under 15 minutes. Ali Buchowski ran 14:57, so just like 2 seconds behind Sisson, and Wayne Kaladi was just behind her for third place. You had Gwen Jorgensen finally making a standard after her transition from triathlon over to the track. So I'm sure that's a weight off of her shoulders. And then you had Molly Huddle, DNF. So we'll hope to see her get her legs back under her, as this is probably one of the last times we're going to see her make an attempt on the track after missing the marathon team last year. And in the men's side, it was just shenanigans. 5 guys under the Olympic standard there as well. Another 4 hit the USA trials qualifier. Grant Fisher won by 3 seconds in 15:02. Things were nuts. But most importantly, I want to shout out Sydney Gidabadai, because the former D2 athlete with the dopest natural hair in the game, he ran 13:22 and hit the trial standard. So 10-man elite showing up. It's my boy Sid the Kid. And then, so that was the weekend that was on the pro side. College, we talked about Zolhair Talby from the Texas qualifier and how he was doubling back to then go run NAIA national championships. He won the 5K literally 5 days after he won the 10K at the Texas qualifier, comes back, runs a 5K indoor, PRs by 35 seconds for an indoor 5K and wins, comes back less than an hour later, anchors his team to a DMR victory. So shout out to him. He'll be one to watch if you want to get behind somebody young and killing it in the game. And then what else happened? Dez Linden announced that she's going to take a crack at the 50K world record. So that is currently set at 3:07:20, and she's going to make that attempt in April. There's a whole Runner's World piece about it that's really just hey, let's highlight all of her sponsors in the most aggressive way possible.
That was a question in the chat about our thoughts on Dez Linden doing that.
I mean, functionally, there are a couple things going in her direction. One, she's always been a excellent pacer. That's literally the thing that she is best known for, is being the most evenly split or negative split professional women's marathoner in the game. 2, she has consistently run the marathon healthy and faster than the pace you will need to go this additional 5 miles. Going from her, I think her PR pace is 5:22, which is at Boston. So not a flat, easy course. But, even on a sort of normal day for her, she's still averaging, 5:30 pace to then drop off 30 seconds and just grind it out for an additional, 5 miles. It's probably pretty good. And then the fact that it's an out and back course means that any effects of the wind will be negated by going the other direction, most likely. So, I think she's got a real legitimate shot. How long that stands for might be a different ball game, because once this happens, you're going to end up with a bunch of ultra athletes who are just nah, this is our game and let's bring it back. But I think she has a pretty healthy shot to take that down. And she did that whole Destober thing last year. So she's no stranger to high mileage. And even after the Olympic trials, maybe even before the Olympic trials, we were talking about her potentially coming to ultras once she was done with this Olympic cycle. So I think it's only a matter of time, and making a ultra world team might get a lot more difficult once she officially makes the jump, whether she stays fully professional and sponsored or just hobby jogs. It makes us all look bad anyway. Cool.
Sweet.
You got feelings on Dez before?
No, I mean, I think it's great. I was going to mention, the Destober, because she's already obviously run the distance. I mean, I don't know if she had already run 30 miles in training before. I don't follow all her training, but, and then my only other thought is I hope she doesn't stop at the 50K. Cause the 50K it's such an extension of the marathon. It'd be cool to see her step up to 50 miles or 100K someday. And she's still definitely in her prime. Whereas, I think by the time Kara Goucher stepping up to ultras seemed like she was a little bit maybe post. So I think it's super exciting, and it's more of the trend of, these fast road folks. Maybe, I don't know if it had to do with what's transpired in the past year, but I think there's just a lot more awareness of the ultra distance and what's happening just in the wider sport, which is, it's awesome. I always welcome it. It's great.
Yeah. Anytime I listen to another podcast with professional athletes and somebody's oh, my friend ran JFK and this road professional athlete or this track professional athlete's oh, ultras, the fact they even know that the term exists is probably a lot further than we were 3, 5, 7 years ago at this point. So yeah, get excited. She's about to screw up ultra sign up for all of us.
Yes.
Few last things to check off the box on Run Flat news. Puma finally, one, launched their like Instagram like newfangled sponsorship thing, and two, finally launched their training group that we teased like all the way back on like episode 3 or 4 in the greater North Carolina area. I think Alistair Cragg is the coach of that. They've got Taylor Werner and Fiona O'Keefe as some of the athletes involved with that. I'm sure we're going to see a full roster coming out relatively soon, but that's happening. Obviously, they'd already snapped up a whole host of athletes this year, including Molly Seidel. So we'll continue to watch what Puma does in the game. Diodora, don't slide in my DMs. Sorry. And then last couple things, we have this upcoming week is about to be nuts. I'm just going to put it out there. If you were a fan of athletics writ large, this is about to be a bananas next 7 days. So on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you have NCAA Division I track indoor championships. Literally on the show last week, the entries were announced, so we previewed a couple quick things. Turns out the Oregon men, I should also say, and Monday is Division I cross country. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday track, Monday cross country. The Oregon men did not declare for cross country. So we thought they might try to double back, or they might be saving a couple people like Cooper Tier to come back. Was not the case. They didn't even put their name in the hat to be selected for the meet. So Oregon men going all in on the indoor track. They have the top seed in the 60 meter. They have the top seed in the 800, plus like the 5th seed, I think. They've got the top miler. They got the top 2 in the 3K. They've got the top DMR. They have a top 8 triple jumper. So like they are going all in to try to get this title, which is ridiculous because the Pac-12 as a conference doesn't even have indoor track. Like they don't have a league, or they don't have a conference. So shout out to them. Look out for LSU and Arkansas to give them a run for their money on the men's side. On the women's side, Athing Mo is running the 400 meter, which is it was a little bit surprising to people because she had just set the 800 meter record, the college record, and the under 20 record. So she's like, let me just run the 400, try to get that college record too, and then probably turn pro. That's my hunch as to how this is going to go down. But Texas A&M also has a stacked 4x4 with her on it and has a legitimate chance of being a podium contender, if not winning the meet on the women's side. You have Arkansas, Texas, and Georgia also in the mix on the women's side. So anything can happen over the course of those 3 days, but those are things you can track for the track world over the weekend. And then Monday, cross country, going to be live on ESPNU and online. And so you have BYU and NAU on the men's side for cross, about to go nuts. NAU has not run their full squad healthy pretty much the entire season, so we'll see if they actually show up. And then you have a sleeper pick in Arkansas, who is hosting indoor track and are ranked on both the men's and women's side to potentially win it. Could also double back on the men's side, and especially on the women's side, and actually the podium, if not win a title. So a lot to catch up on there. Whole host of other stories. Michigan didn't make it in because they lost to Syracuse, but Syracuse got in because they beat Michigan, even though it wasn't a good win. There's a whole lot of politics behind that, which is fun. But yeah, just like not a lot of folks doubling back personally, like individually, from indoor track to cross. So both of them will be great to watch because folks will be fresh. Folks will be getting after it. Special shout out to the Georgetown women and my former coach, Mitch Baker. They won the Big East title. They got into the big dance, both on the men's and the women's side. So shout out to them. And then lastly, I'm going to switch it up on you. You weren't ready for this. Triathlon news. That's right. Challenge Miami is happening this Friday, and it's like nighttime, prime time. So you pay like $2 or $3 on, you can watch it Facebook Live. Jan Frodeno may or may not be there. I don't know. He might have missed his flight, didn't have a COVID passport. But you got Lionel Sanders, Ben Hoffman, Tim O'Donnell, Tyler Butterfield, Eric Lagerstrom on the men's side. On the women's side, you got Lucy Charles Barclay. Actually, I think her husband is also on the men's side. Annie Haug, Sarah Crowley, like basically anyone who's done anything in ITU or iron distance triathlon in the past 2 years is going to be at this race. And it's like a 1.2 mile swim, 37 mile bike, and like a 17 mile run or 11 mile run. So like a super off distance thing. So it's like 2 hours of your time to follow it if that's the thing you want to do. But we're seeing a lot of folks who are working on their track and cross country type speed coming over to triathlon, just figuring out how to swim and then holding it together. So it'll be interesting to see if this does come down to a true foot race around the Homestead Miami Speedway, what that looks like. Super shoes be damned. And yeah, that's Run Flat News in a nutshell. Whew.
Deep breath.
Lord, okay, cool.
We got a question here.
Yeah.
Schuyler, what do you predict is the Boston cutoff this year for the under 30 men with a reduced field count? Could it be 255, 250? And this question comes to us from Numbers.
That's a good question. It's really hard to guess without knowing what that whole field size is going to look like. For the under 30 men, which is typically 3 flat now. And it was, I think for the full field size, you needed to break like 257 mid, like 257.40 to get in when it was a full size. Yeah, I would imagine that it's going to be at least 255 for any sort of field size reduction. Yeah, my money would bet on basically take 5 minutes off of whatever the normal cutoff would have been. And that's probably what we're going to be looking at for the reduced field size Boston. But again, if it's reduced from 30,000 to 3,000, then like that's out the window and it's going to be significantly lower than that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Cool. What else we got?
We got Q&A.
Q&A. All right. So let's kind of ramp up. If you guys have questions in general for us about anything we talked about on the show tonight, drop them in the comments right now. If you're tuning in on YouTube or Facebook, we'd love to get into it. I'm going to scroll back up and try and grab some of these here. Sure. Let's see. Frank said, I guess this is when you were missing. It said, the podcast is not as interesting with only Jam. Very true.
Thank you.
Very true.
I appreciate that vote of confidence.
Let's see here. This is a random one, but okay. We welcome random questions. So yeah. Numbers is asking a couple things. He's got one for you and one for me. So okay. Skizzle Fresh, do you take any supplements on a regular basis? I'm considering upping my vitamin D.
I mean, vitamin D is fine. Pretty sure it's water soluble. So go wild. I take, I'm trying to think through. It's not a particularly long list. I have like a B vitamin supplement that I take. Just really everything I do is for immune boosting purposes, because I have a trash diet. Is this evidence from every challenge video we've ever done? So I have a Athletic Greens smoothie in the morning just to like recenter my stomach. I have a B vitamin with potassium from Goo Energy Labs that I take, and I have a extreme endurance what do you call that thing? To reduce lactic acid buildup, like one of those situations. And then obviously I am a Goo Energy Labs athlete. So in terms of my Roctane, like carbohydrate drinks and gels and, proteins all come from them. And they just got the new one, strawberry hibiscus. So
hibiscus! I actually got a jar of that.
It's legit.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's where I'm at on the supplement game.
And then Numbers is asking me, Jamil, you had that bad rash on your legs a while back. What was the best lotion you found for it? Yeah. So, and actually I just found two scorpion weed plants growing on the trails by my house in the last week. So it's apparently back. It's not in full force, but yeah. Found out I was super allergic to this plant that grows in the desert here, especially after winter, spring rains, called scorpion weed. It's a little green plant with purple flowers, and it kind of has it like folds over like a tail of a scorpion. And it's like a poison ivy type of a rash. And if you leave it untreated, it blisters and gets really bad. So the product I found that works really well for me is from Technu, and it's the poison ivy scrub. It not only gets all the oils off, but then it has like a medication to keep the itching at bay. So if now, whenever if I go out and even almost brush up against anything in the desert that's growing, that's new, I always use it in the shower. So check it out, Tech New. You can find it at like any drugstore, like Walgreens or CVS. Great. Let's see here. Sean Trujillo asks, Jam, who are your top 3 picks, women and men, to possibly take it all at Hardrock this year? Do you think it's a go? Okay, well, first off, I'll address if I think it's a go. I mean, I hope it's a go. I think the only thing that to me is weird is the Ice Lakes Trail is closed until I think the end of July, past Hardrock, due to I think the COVID crowds, like people escaping COVID into the mountains, not really normally going there and bringing their lifestyles without understanding how to take care of the natural environment. So people were going up there, they're camping above tree line, they're not packing out their waste. They're having fires in the Alpine, like campfires. So it's awful. It's just being overrun essentially. And so and then it led to that fire that went up in that area too. There was like a forest fire basically above tree line. So it's bad. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how they're going to get around that, or if they're going to get special permission to go through there. But it's apparently it's closed to the public through middle of next summer. If it does go off, I mean, I'd like to think I want to be up there. Throw my name in the hat. I want to be up there. Francois is going to be up there. I mean, the list I'm pretty sure stacked. I honestly don't even know all of it right now. I know Courtney is running, so she's going to be my top of the women's list. That's about as far as I know. I'll have to dig into that later and get back to you on that. Any news on a challenge race for all of us? Any news on that, Schuyler?
We're still talking that. We're still talking it
out. Someone says vitamin D is fat soluble. So there you go.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I'm not a nutritionist, so I also listen to your doctor. Just see all medical advice that we ever give on the show. You should then consult a physician for your personal circumstance, because we are not doctors.
Oh, so Debo is running Hardrock. Yeah, that's going to be concerning to me. Yeah. Might knock me out. Okay, at the top 3. Abraham Franson, I'm running my first trail marathon and have been following a generic training plan, but trying to run more vertical and trails. How important is it to do flat road, track, speed work? I think it's good to have a mix of everything. What flat running and speed work can do for you, and you don't have to do it on a track or on a road. You can also do it on a dirt trail, a flat dirt trail, or a canal path or something. Like I usually like to do my speed work on say a canal path, but I mean, it's going to build your general fitness, and that's important to do. You don't want to neglect it. I think it will only help you to incorporate some quality into your training regimen. Would you agree?
Yep. Yeah, no, I would co-sign that. Obviously, there are benefits to running economy, just like running faster forces you to work on the overall biomechanics of your running stride and running form. And then for trail or hillier trail races specifically, running uphill uses basically the same muscles as sprinting. So if you are training on flat ground, that's a way to get some free vert readiness, so long as you're doing so safely and not like, I'm just going to go run a 400 today. Like, be smart about it. But yeah, if you're probably setting yourself up for long-term success, just not just in the race that you're in, but also making sure that you move well throughout your entire running career. Just throw some strides in at the end of every run. It's just a good way to just make sure everything's flowing.
Nice. Good advice. Any more questions in the chat room? It's running a little thin right now.
We got one sort of like two-parter that we got from Instagram. So as folks are populating, and if you're listening to this in podcast form, you can join us on Tuesday nights and put them in live, or drop in the comments of the video after the fact. But from Instagram, Jamil, this is to both of us, but I'll start with you. What would you say you define as like you personally being quote fit, and what was your best year of fitness?
Oh man, what do I define as fit? Like I'd say like running consistently, doing workouts. So like running 6 to 7 days a week for many months, doing workouts, doing high volume. So 80 to 100 miles a week. The best year of my fitness, it's hard. It's tough to think of a time when I was more fit than going into Hardrock in 2013. Very, very fit for that event. I don't know that I've had as good of a block since then, unfortunately. So that would be my answer. Sad.
I mean, until this slam to the damn two.
I mean, it's not going well so far, but we're getting close to the first event, and we're gonna build off of it, and it's gonna be great. By the end of the year, we're gonna be super fit.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I think that's the goal of the entire channel, is just to be super fit by the end of 2021. I think for me, it's always been like global perspective. So being able to, if somebody called me on Friday and was like, hey, I need you to come pace me for like some absurd number of miles on Saturday, that I was in a position to be able to do that well and not without hurting myself. So I think like that's how I currently define fit, not necessarily race sharp. And I kind of talked about this in this week's vlog, but just like being ready for anything. And then once I have a specific goal in mind, being able to sort of periodize or hit the peak of the training cycle to be geared towards that. But as I've gotten older, that also has taken, I realize I take for granted flexibility, mobility, and just like, the upper body strength that comes with it. So I've also tried to prioritize that a bit. Sorry, Dre, I'm just gonna publicly say, my personal trainer, I've been messing up. I've been gone for like a week and a half. So at the end of the week, I'm coming back in and we're gonna lock this down. We're gonna get this spring break right. But my bad. So when was I the most fit? Honestly, it was probably 2016. Like right when we started this channel, basically. Because that was
this channel. No.
Yeah, well, not for lack of trying. You guys definitely tried to kill me. But that was when I was living in Phoenix. I was running 3 group runs a week or something like that. We'd have a Monday group run where I would like do some, I'd do at least like 13 to 1500 feet of climbing. I had a Tuesday track workout that I was like running to half the time. We had a Wednesday group run. There was like Roadrunner Sports was still doing their like weird scavenger hunt once a month. And so I was like basically doing a tempo, trying to like get tickets and win stuff. And then that was when I was training for Crown King, doubled back 3 weeks later for Whiskey Basin. Not that either of those went like particularly great, but like I got them done. And it's the only 50 miler trail race I've ever done. And then when I moved to San Francisco on 3 or 4 days notice, I got signed up for a 50K, and that ended up being my 50K PR. So that was probably the most in shape. And then we did Quad Dipsy that year, which I always forget because we did it for a challenge. But the fact that also didn't kill me is pretty remarkable, because that's 9,000 feet of climbing or something in 28 miles, which is clearly not my strength. But the fact that, we did that while carrying light up reindeer was pretty solid. So yeah, that was probably the most fit, and that's where I'm trying to get back to. So hopefully, exactly, the reindeer right back there. So that's what I'm trying to get back to this year. Just be ready for anything. And it's a grind. So we're, again, fell off pace a little bit towards the end of February, but birthday month of action is here, and hoping to take you guys on the journey and then actually carry that. So it's not just like a flash in the pan vlog series for the month, but we actually, turn that into races, time trials, most likely for a couple of months there for the shorter stuff. And then, we got the Skyline 50K, and then I might be doing some long stuff. I might be doing some cross country come the fall. I got to talk to Jamil about a couple things that I got brewing. So yeah, it's going to be weird. Get excited.
Numbers asks, what how do you approach injuries? Do you try to run through them, rest, cross train?
Oh, you want me to take this one?
I don't know. No, I can take it.
We know what you do.
I just went through a mini, I don't know if it was a true injury, but it was like a thing. I definitely, if I feel something that I'm not going to just run through something that I know is going to make it worse. I tend to just take time off. But sometimes if I know my body well enough, I kind of know when to push through it. If it's something that pops up during a race, I push through it 100% of the time, basically. Like I never say, which I think a lot of people do, and I'm not going to fault anyone for doing this. I just do it. I do my own thing. I do things differently maybe, but it's like, I'm never going to stop because I'm like worried about risking permanent injury. It's probably gonna be like my famous last words, but like I always find a way to get through something, especially in a race environment. Knock on wood, it hasn't bitten me back yet. So that's my stupid approach.
I have luckily over time, now that I've gotten older and my body actually has started to hate me, and realized that like I need to take care of things. Like I have a pretty good team around me that I trust. Like I have my, personal trainer, got my chiro, I'm about to work on the physical therapy side. So I try to proactively tackle things as they come up, because also for most injuries, like you still need some sort of movement to help it heal. And so it's a function of knowing sort of like soft tissue versus like bone or something. And then like how to work through that massage, or like vibrating balls or power dots or Normatec boots, like whatever you got to do. And then, if it's something that's going to, if it's an injury where trying to run on it is going to screw up my biomechanics so much that's going to cause another injury or like a completely different issue, then I'm probably going to end up cross training to the degree that I can, or hey, maybe like I'm just going to walk around a lot just to try to like keep things moving. But sometimes it's like, hey, I just got to know that this is just going to be generally tender, and I just need to figure out some way to like tape it up in such a way that I give it the adequate support while I can continue to work on stability, mobility, balance, whatever might be lacking that caused that injury in the first place. And so I think a lot of times people try to spot treat like, oh, I have this issue. This is the issue. It's like, well, what caused it? Like, what was the root problem? And like, how do those manifest in different elements or different areas of your body? So like, I know if I start having an issue in my right shoulder, that means that like something's happening with my left hamstring or left glute again, like happened way back across the years 2 years ago. So like, okay, I need to be mindful of stretching or doing something over there. If I have something with the calf, again, it's probably somewhere in my hip cradle that I need to be mindful of. And so it's just like understanding how your body, like how it's all connected, and not treating like, oh, like I just got a shoulder issue. Like, let me get on the ball and like try to open things up. It's like, no, I probably screwed up my lower back somewhere, and let me deal with that, because trying to run through that is going to cause a whole host of problems for everything downstream and upstream. So again, but also consult your physician and talk to a personal trainer or physical therapist, because we're not medical doctors.
We got one from Adam Priest here. Best pace strategy if you're going for a PR: go out fast and try and hold on, or try and conserve for the second half, or something else. Well, if this was like the Nick Coury show, he would say go out conservative and try an even split or slightly negative split. That takes an incredible amount of patience and training in order to do that. So, but it seems to work pretty well for him. So I think it's just something to look into. It's one strategy, but then also you see other strategies work. I think like Zach Bitter and Camille Herron are examples of going out harder and still setting world records. So I think there's like more than one way to do it. And I think it just depends probably on a lot of different factors, and probably is some trial and error on your part.
Yeah. And also that's very dependent on distance and course. Like if we're running an 800 meter, I'm going to tell you to ball out like off the
Yeah.
top.
An 800
Like,
meter, it's pretty much a 2-lap sprint.
right. Like that's very different than, a 50 miler that's flat and then a 50 miler that's hilly. It's like, well, like know your course.
Yeah.
You're like, no matter what, like once you start getting into ultra distances, really even like beyond the half marathon to some degree, like the likelihood of you having some muscle breakdown mid race, like it just starts to increase pretty aggressively. And so it's a matter of knowing, what your nutrition strategy is going to be, how your body's going to react to those distances, and then planning accordingly based on the pace you're trying to maintain and the terrain that's ahead of you.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sean Trujillo, pre-eco race before Hardrock, basically run a designated trail, collect the most trash, and you win a free entry to Kendall Mountain Run. Interesting concept.
Yeah, I also don't want to incentivize people going out there to drop the trash so they then know where to go get the trash. So,
yeah.
But that's the cynic in me.
But yeah, probably like playing on the thing of like people trash in the wilderness. I don't know if it's still messed up, but yeah, I was thinking about that because at Mesquite Canyon, even this last weekend, I picked up probably 3, 4, 5 pieces of trash, and yeah, incentives for cleanup. I like it. I think it's a good idea. Crispin, the quad dipsy, was the first time I heard of you guys. Those reindeers stood out from the crowd. Yes, they did.
Yeah. Just a light risk of spearing ourselves. No big deal.
Yeah. Cool. That's all the questions I have right now. So I guess we'll give people a couple more minutes, but anything else to share? Any big birthday plans?
Yeah. Should I just tease it now? So last year for the birthday, there's a whole vlog series about this, but I had infrastructure week. So I was trying to do my first ever 100-mile week, and that culminated on my birthday with a 32-mile run from basically like home-ish all the way to practice, where, I wrapped it up 32 years, coached the kids, then went and lived life. I'm a year older this year. So take from that what you will.
Another mile.
About what the plans might be. But also we have some other goals for birthday month of action that won't necessarily lend themselves to running a mostly bay trail, very flat distance. So that's hopefully in the cards for tomorrow. It's currently raining, so we'll see how that might affect things.
Mountain Outpost Instagram takeover, maybe?
No. Because once it goes sideways, it's going to go sideways quickly. But one of the things I did enjoy about that, like 50K for the birthday last year, was, other than sort of like once an hour, like throwing up like an Instagram story, like here's how far I've made it in the last hour, and then loosely doing the traditional GoProing ourselves because content. I was just by myself, which is not something that ever happens in a race scenario for that long, for 5 hours. Just be like, I'm on my own thing. I'm not seeing anybody I know. Like, I'm just like listening to podcasts or doing whatever, just like enjoying my area, like alone. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be the goal of tomorrow. Is just, it's been a weird year. So I can definitely just like go out, have some fun, reflect, put myself in the pain cave, probably just by happenstance, and then still have to go to practice afterwards and be halfway functional. So it'll be a good time.
Good stuff. All right. We'll stay tuned for that tomorrow, I guess. Let's see. Nancy Hobbs, circling back on the trash cleanup. I think all event directors and runners should adhere to and practice terracycling. Aravaipa does this. What's your policy? Yeah, terracycling. Goo turned us on to that, but you can terracycle more than just goo wrappers. Essentially, what Terracycle is they collect basically all nutrition sports wrappers, almost anything, from granola bars and Cliff bars to goo packets and other gel packets. Collect them, send them in, and then they recycle them, keep them out of the landfill. So yeah, at all Aravaipa races, we have a terracycling bin. It's almost has like, it's just a Tupperware. It says Terracycle. It has like a coin slot on the top. You just put your wrappers in there. We bring it back here to our office. We have like a huge bins, and we collect it and then eventually send it to either GOO or directly to Terracycle, and they take it from there. So check it out. You can just Google Terracycling, and yeah, event directors, check it out.
Yeah, I'm excited. Just while we're piggybacking off of that, I was talking to Celia, the brand marketing mind behind GOO in many respects, and friend of the pod, friend of Tiki Ultras everywhere, friend of all sorts of rum drinks. We were talking today, and I guess GOO is expanding their international supplier market, and so like one of the GOO international teams like hit me up on Instagram, which is like, hey, we exist, which was just like one nice to let me know, because there have been a lot of brands who've had unofficial like spam Instagrams pop up.
Yeah,
I think actually it happened to you, right? And so I'm excited to see, if to the degree that Terracycling, as a result of GOO and companies that are eco-focused, expanding abroad, what that's going to bring to international markets as well. So just got to shout out GOO, and shout out the Terracycle community for doing some great stuff. Like, hey, if you want an Adirondack chair made out of complete like wrappers that you would never have known was made out of wrappers, like you can do that on Terracycle. So it's a good way to
now I need to get some Terracycle furniture for my office. Like, I don't know why I haven't done this yet, but I clearly need to do this. So
that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Basic reminders.
I need to look into this more. I need to become more of an expert. I think we get credits, right, for turning in our stuff. So I guess our goal will be to earn furniture and continue furnishing our place. That'd be great.
And individuals can do this too. It's not just race director organization. So if you were just like hanging out at home, or you run a local run club, and people use a lot of wrappers of GOO or any sort of nutrition brand, I will gladly plug just Google Terracycle, and they'll give you the whole thing. They'll tell you how to print labels. You can send everything back to them, and life is good and the world is better for it.
It looks like Nancy Hobbs says Terracycle at gooenergy.com. So run specialty stores and RDs who want to participate. So that's another way to do it. If you want to collect your spent GOOs from your training runs and your own racing at like things you do at home, collect it, go talk to your local race director, go talk to your local run specialty store, have them join the Terracycle program. They can be a collection point. So like, I'll just mention, if you have those in the Phoenix area, or you come to any Aravaipa race, you can also bring all your wrappers from home. We'll collect them and process them for you if you don't want to deal with the hassle of shipping and printing labels. So, really, let's, demand it on our side. Let's all do our part to keep that stuff out of the landfill. Cool.
Sure.
That was a good, nice side conversation. And then this is a good one to close it off. No need to answer, but on my long run the other day, I had to fight strong bowel movement urges in the last few miles. Any practical advice for preventing or dealing with this? I would say, sometimes it's unavoidable and it just happens, and you have to just deal with it at that point in time. But I think ways to prevent it is timing of your meals or sizing of your meals, especially before long runs or getting into a rhythm. Like, if you're going to run at the same time every day, try and set yourself up for success by, not eating a huge amount or something. Or sometimes, coffee in the morning can get things moving before you get out on your run. So get that going with enough time to make that happen. That's just some practical advice from experience. But sometimes it just happens and it's unavoidable.
Yep. Just clench and pray, slow down, walk, I guess.
Walk it in.
Walk it. Just
bring some wipes, maybe.
Is it worth it? Have some hand sanitizer in case you got to use a porta potty. Bring a couple of paper towels. For your situation, but also if you've ever been in a porta potty in the middle of a race, that becomes a damn sauna. So just if you're don't want to extra sweat and then chafe as a result, we're just prepare for that. Just going to put that out there. I would just say get into a regular routine, I think, is the the most important thing you can do. There's what's the I don't know. I'm asking you. You ever watch Van Wilder? No? Yeah. Okay. So there's a whole thing. There was a whole scene around like taking like a pregame dump or like any sort of anxiety or stressful situations. Like just have your body trained. It's like, hey, we're about to get into something. Like go. And there's a whole scene, spoiler alert, where he like gets somebody like this guy that he hates. He like gives him some laxative or something, and in the middle of this huge test, he has to like rush out. It's like a proctored exam, so you can't leave or whatever. But he gives him all the stuff, and he has to run. The importance of a pregame dump. So if you can get your body on to a regular rhythm, that's probably best for you. And then obviously know if you have like food allergies, sensitivities. Some people they drink alcohol, and then the next day life is not good for them for the first half of the day. Maybe if you have a big run or a race or something like that, you're like, oh, it's like I'm gonna have a drink to take the edge off. Maybe not in your best interest. Things like that. Just like know your personal sensitivities and try to get into a regular rhythm. Make your life a hell of a lot easier. But also, if you're about to poop your pants, maybe just slow down. It's not worth it. I accidentally sent out a photo of somebody pooping themselves to my entire cross country team in college once, and I never really lived that down. It's once you see it, you can't unsee it. So don't be that person for anyone you might be running around.
All right. And on that note, I think we are about to wrap up this week's show. Any last words for this one?
Nah, just thanks as always to folks who tuned in live. If you didn't, and you caught us on the pod later, then you can join us Tuesday nights on YouTube on the Mountain Outpost channel. So just click that up, and while you're there, whether you're currently watching or you come in later, hit that subscribe button, like this video, hit that bell so you get the notifications. And drop some love in the comments of what you want us to chat about. If you have questions after the fact, just brain teasers, things like that. Be happy to chat about them. I'm sure next week we're going to have a lot to cover based on, I just know from the Run Flat News standpoint, we're going to have a lot to recap. So we still want to take in your topics, make this relevant to you. So be a part of the community. And I should also, if you're watching this live, you can see our handles for Instagram, wherever. I think he's on that side of the screen.
Yeah.
So
let's get what you're closing in on 2,000, I think. Let's get him over the hump.
I don't. Sure.
Well, I think Rob mentioned like after Black Canyon, you were blowing up a little bit. So we got to cool. First off, go check out the article about Schuyler on American Trail Running Association website, ATRA.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Tate.
Overview. Go follow Schuyler. Everyone who's listening, go follow him. Let's get him over 2K. We're doing we're begging. We're getting desperate here. No.
Whoa, don't say we. I didn't ask for this. And Strava, you know what? I think that's also, we should shout that out because, we are still runners and we want to give you guys kudos. Yeah. And this can be, even though the chat is obviously a conversation, we also want to show some love to what you're doing in the running space. So we have the Run Flat, Stay Low Strava group. We've got the Run Steep, Get High Strava group. Like, join those. You can follow us. We're super public. We're too public. So join us there. Join in the fun. And as always, we're here to give the people what they want. So help us, help you, help each other.
All right. And with that, we're ending this episode. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great one. And we'll catch up soon.
Enjoy yourselves.